Hey guys, it's your boy CJ Drum back with another Marvel Spider-Man related video. In this video, we're just going to go through and touch on a few things that I saw after going through Bryan's Twitter feed. Now, number one is from Foggy Nelson, and he asks, "Will there be landmark tokens in Spider-Man PlayStation 4?" Bryan Intihar said yes, and I'm actually really excited about that because we actually don't know much about the collectibles that are going to be in this game, and we know that there's Black Cat figurines, we know that there's the backpacks, but outside of that, there's not much known about what other collectibles will be in the game. So it's really cool and interesting to see that there will be landmark tokens, and I'm assuming that these landmark tokens will probably be a part of the currency used to craft suits. So that's really interesting. So essentially we're going to have to find these tokens as well in our pursuit for unlocking the different costumes in this game. Next on the list is from user Greg Ferguson, who says, "If you look closely, you can see that Spider-Man's foot never makes contact with the Fisk Thug. Will this be fixed, and what do you think?" Bryan Intihar actually went in to address this and said this is something we've been actively looking to address. And it's really nice that they're still looking at things because it shows that Insomniac again is still working to tweak this game to make sure that all the bugs and animation errors are taken care of. So they are still actively working. They're trying to, get everything done prior to the September release. They have not gone gold yet, which means they are still working to improve this game to make it great. Next question is from TS2077. Will the density of NPCs/cars in the regular PS4 version be the same as was shown in gameplay footage? Bryan Intihar, of course, says yes, which is really good because if you remember, all the footage they've shown thus far was captured on the PlayStation 4 Pro. So this question to me says a regular PlayStation 4 won't have that kind of downgrade between the two different consoles, the PlayStation 4 Pro and the regular PS4. My assumption then is just that the resolutions will be greater and maybe you won't have any dips in frame rate with the PlayStation 4 Pro. The next question comes from Mr. Forbes. When it comes to the narrative, how many hours are we looking at story-wise? Aside from the comedic nature of Spidey, should we expect tearjerkers in the story given the personal delve into Peter's personal life? Too soon? Bryan Intihar obviously responds, "You'll find out September 7th. The reason why I think this one is interesting is because they don't want to touch on exactly how long the story is, even though we do know it's going to be a fairly substantial story with over 300,000 words written for this story. I think in total they said they had like 800,000 words, in which a lot of it was cut out, and not because it was bad per se, but because they had to get the right feel for the character and the story they were telling. So again, even though Bryan doesn't really, go into detail here, I think they really are going to create a very immersive story. And for our next person, Gustavo, he says, "Hello Bryan, will the clothes change the fighting style of Spider-Man or just the specials? Please answer." Bryan Intihar says, "Just suit powers." I think that's really interesting because although I did not expect suits to change or have any influence on how the actual character Spider-Man plays, if you do think of games like Web of Shadows or Shattered Dimensions, when you're playing, say, the symbiote suit, for instance, your attacks do change. I mean, if you think about ranged attacks specifically, because the symbiote actually stretches and it extends, your attacks change because you don't have to be as close to enemies, in addition to the animations being different and the actual moveset being slightly different. This won't be in this game, which isn't a bad thing, but it will be interesting to see if they will include something like that in future games. Different basically suits may have different ranged attacks. Right, our next question is it possible to voice swing this fast as Spider-Man PlayStation 4? Does he start breathing like that if he reaches maximum speed depending on upgrades? And Bryan Intihar said, "No heavy breathing." Our friend Evan Flarka says, "Really? That's such a cool feature in WOS. WOS is Web of Shadows." You know what? I never thought about it before, but it is a really nice feature because essentially what happens is when you're really high, you don't hear anything else in the city. So obviously when you're down on the city ground, I'm in the city now, you probably can hear beeping and honking behind me. There's just so much noise in a city. However, once you reach a certain height, once you're at the skyscraper level, it's silence. There's nothing up there. So the only thing that you hear is Spider-Man's breathing. And it actually was a pretty cool effect. I'm not that I'm sad that it's not in this game, but it's one of those things where if it were in there, it just adds another level of that density to, you know, all the little things that they added to this game to make it great. Next question from Max is, are suit powers passive? In which Bryan says nope. This question is very interesting to me because in my last video I was just speaking about possible suit powers for the future Foundation suit if it's in the game, and the power that I was thinking would be great is health regeneration. Now obviously that would be a passive power, and Bryan obviously has just debunked that there won't be anything like that. So you won't have any passive powers. So all the powers are going to be active. They're going to be either defense probably or offense, but they won't be passive like regenerative health. Next question that we see on the list is, will the rain affect parkour? For example, sliding on rooftops when doing parkour. Bryan answers no. Although again, this is one of those little details that it won't make or break a game. Honestly, you won't even notice it when you're playing the game. However, it's one of those details that if it were added, it would just be another depth to movement, and it would actually be really cool. Again, I don't care that it's not in this game, but it would actually be cool to see that in future games, essentially where the environment affects how you move. Because if you think about it, it'd be really interesting to see how Peter Parker struggles if it's, say, raining heavily. If you think about things like wind, if Spider-Man shoots his webs and it's not going fast or strong enough, the wind could change its trajectory, throwing Spider-Man off. So this question is on there just because honestly it's pretty funny. It says, Bryan, will we see a sex scene in Spider-Man PlayStation 4? Sorry if it's a bit weird. No. Yeah, that's a very appropriate answer. I don't know why they would put a sex scene in the kids game. Just saying. Alright, the next question is one of the most interesting to me. And it says, greetings all. Simple question. Do we need to discover the suits like blueprints and then we are able to make them, or do we unlock them as we level up? Bryan answers, no blueprints. Reach a certain player level and new suits will become available to craft, and you need to accumulate the correct assortment of crafting currency to actually make it. I really like this question because one of the things I had been wondering, although Bryan has addressed it already, was will we know what suits we're crafting? I mean, if you have these different suit materials, these crafting materials, and then we know we need certain crafting materials to craft certain suits, do we have to find blueprints? Will we just have like blank silhouettes in which we don't know what suit we're crafting? But that's not the case in this game. Basically, what's going to happen is once you reach a certain level, you'll have a slew of new suits that you can unlock. So it's going to tell you what the suit is. It's probably going to give you a brief image of the suit, maybe a brief description of what the suit is, maybe its suitability, and then you can go and see what specific crafting materials you need for it. I'm really interested in that. I really like that idea. I'm very happy that we don't have to go and find blueprints. The suits will just be there, and we'll know specifically which ones are in the game and which ones we can craft based on the materials, and that way you can focus on just the suits that you want. The next question is there any Spidey suits that affect the main story besides the advanced suit? And again, Bryan answers you'll see in September. So I'm going to touch on this topic more Friday in my suits video after Comic-Con releases the third pre-order suit. But long story short, I definitely do believe there's a narrative aspect between all of the suits in this story, specifically the suits that Insomniac creates. I think that Insomniac is going to create their own suits, not just the advanced Spider-Man suit, and their suits that they create will definitely tie into the narrative directly. If I had to bet, I would say that at Comic-Con we're going to get a new story trailer, and in that story trailer there's going to be a specific reason why we're going to get this last pre-order suit, and I do believe it's going to be an Insomniac original suit. Hold me to that. We're going to see you on Friday, but that is my bet. Gameplay trailer, don't think so. Story trailer, definitely think so, and that's going to tie into this new suit that we're going to see. Next question is, hey Bryan Intihar, I wanted to know if you guys can give an estimate as to how many suits there are in the final game. Bryan says enough to make you happy. Again, they are not telling us how many suits are in this game. Previous videos they said it's a lot, and I'm actually excited to see how many are in this game. I do think it's going to be quite a bit. Next question from Bryan says, Bryan Intihar, the gameplay that people played from E3, was that with all the upgrades or was that around the beginning with barely any? Please respond and thank you for the dream game. And then Bryan actually goes on to respond, because we said in the interviews and the live stream is a partially leveled up Spidey. Now, in many of the interviews, they actually addressed that Spider-Man in this build is a little bit less than halfway leveled up. So he has a good amount of his abilities, but he's not quite halfway. And it's also interesting that if you look in the gameplay, there's actually moments where they pause the game and you'll actually see Spider-Man's level. He's actually at level 15, and if that's halfway, then we can assume level 30 might be the cap for Spider-Man's levels. But either way, he's a little under halfway developed at this point, and we do have quite a bit in here. But even with him being a little bit under halfway, they still didn't put in a lot of the different combos and finishers. Next question is from Jesse Thomas. Do the side missions in the game just include open world activities, or are there equal quests that have their own individual stories? Bryan says there are actual quests too. So I did address this in a previous video, but it's not just distractions in the city. That's one of my concerns. That was one of my concerns. I didn't want just random things to do, because that's when things become repetitive. If all you're doing is crimes, if all you're doing is random car chases, then, and even the challenges, if that's all you're doing, then the open world is going to seem dull. You have your main story and your main story quests, but this game will actually have side quests, which means these are full narratives that have nothing to do with the Sinister Six plot. And that's really interesting, because you can just do these side quests to help you level up. You can do the activities and the distractions and the challenges to help get different additional tokens for crafting material, but you will have a lot to do in the city, not just the main story, not just the distractions, but other quests. And they actually said there will be quest villains, so you'll have villains for these side quests. Alright, the next question from Yu-Gi-Oh! Master LP: will all suit abilities be capable of being put on different suits? Also, are the pre-order suits some of the harder ones to unlock if you don't pre-order, or no? Somniac actually says question 1, yes. Question 2, yes. So we knew question 1 was a yes, because they've said that all the suit abilities are swappable. But question 2 is really interesting, because it's basically saying that if you don't pre-order this game, you're going to have a more difficult time unlocking these suits. These are going to be some of the harder suits to unlock, especially the Iron Spider. I mean, it just makes sense for that to be a harder suit to unlock. And honestly, that's why I'm pre-ordering this game, because that suit I want as soon as I can. As soon as it's possible to change suits, that's one of the ones I'm going to use. And the last question here is, I just want to say thank you for your work. As fans, the world over awaits September 7th. Question: is there a single Marvel character you want to work on after Spider-Man PlayStation 4, perhaps Iron Man or Hulk? To which Bryan answers, can't say. Now, why can't Bryan say? My theory is they actually are already working on another title. So this game, this Marvel Spider-Man, I do think it's probably going to be a franchise. I at least think there's going to be a sequel, if not 3 or 4 games. With that being said, you have to remember that Insomniac has 2 different studios, one in Burbank, California, and the other one's in North Carolina. A few months ago, Insomniac actually posted that they were looking for writers for a video game that had experience on AAA titles. What that tells me is that I think that they were looking for writers not for Spider-Man, but for another Marvel game. Now, a lot of studios do this, so there might be one umbrella studio, or just, you know, the overall company, but the studio itself might be broken into different locations, working on different projects. I think that we're probably going to get another New York-based video game from Insomniac, because hey, they already built that world, they already built the city, they can continue expanding upon it. And I'm really thinking that we might get either Doctor Strange or somebody like Daredevil. I would prefer Doctor Strange, and I actually would think it would be Doctor Strange because he's already been teased in this game, but then again, so has Daredevil. With that being said, I actually would love for them to make a Black Panther game. I actually think they can do that game justice, and there's a lot they can do with the technology, because, you know, Black Panther is all about gadgets and technology, but I think doing a Doctor Strange game would be actually awesome for them, because if you think about magic can be craftable, it can be discoverable, like Doctor Strange learning new spells. That would replace gadgets, but it will work almost the same way. Either way, I honestly believe they are already working on another title for Marvel. It may or may not be a Sony exclusive. I would actually hope it wouldn't be a Sony exclusive, even though I only have a PlayStation 4. But it, you know, obviously this probably wouldn't be done under Sony directly, but again, I definitely think they're working on another game, and my fingers are crossed for either Black Panther or Doctor Strange, but it very likely could be Daredevil because he is a very similar character to Spider-Man. Either way, that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you guys think about all these questions and their responses in the comments below. Remember, do good works for someone today, because that's what makes us really amazing Spidey fans. Anyway, it's your boy CJ Drum. Peace out.